Welcome back. Britain's Labour Party has won a landslide victory in elections yesterday, with Keir Starmer now elected as the new Prime Minister and Rishi Sunak conceding defeat. The Conservatives have been in power for 14 years. To get reactions, I'm joined now by Christopher Hale, a British nonfiction writer and a documentary producer who has produced documentaries for most of the major international broadcasters. He's based in London. Christopher, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
So, historic results in these elections. Labour Party went from 202 seats in the 2019 election to over 400. The Conservatives, now it's one of their worst showings. You have to go back, I think, to the beginning of the 20th century to find as bad a showing for the Conservatives. I guess, yes, change, but what do you think was the main reason why Britain went full-on Labour in a way we haven't seen in so long?
Well, I think that the main reason is that we have had a long period of Conservative government, and its record in office, although the Conservative Party is sometimes regarded as the natural party of power in the UK, its record over the last decade or so has been atrocious. And I think that is very, very widely perceived from many different perspectives. So, for example, on the one side, the policy of austerity that was introduced by the Conservative government after the financial crisis has had a disastrous impact on our public goods, like the health service. It's had a terrible effect on local government. And really, people are feeling that very badly. Our NHS, which is highly prized by most British citizens, is considered to be in crisis. And all these factors, I think, led to people voting against the Conservatives and really hungering to have a new government. I think that's one side of it. The other side of it, which in my view is a little bit darker, is that we now have a party in power with MPs in Parliament that is comparable to the right-wing AfD in Germany and the right-wing government that is currently, right now, going up against Macron in France. So I think, like any historic event, it has many dimensions which, from different points of view, are good or bad.
And did Brexit play a role in this election campaign at all? And what of Brexit with a Labour government?
Well, that's an extremely good question. Brexit did not play a role in the sort of public discourse about the election because everybody, the people who gave us Brexit, the Conservative government, now party, I suppose one would have to call it, imminently, they don't want to talk about it because it is widely considered to be a historic mistake, which has had huge disadvantages for British citizens, British industry, and so on. However, there are constituencies in the UK that voted for leave, voted for Brexit, who feel that the excuse is that it hasn't been done right. Those constituencies made the Labour Party very, very nervous. So they stayed away from talking about Brexit because they did not want to rile up the people who were traditional supporters of Labour but had voted for leave. So it is really, Brexit is just has ripped Britain apart, and unfortunately, it may continue to do so.
Let's talk about Keir Starmer now. Not a very well-known figure on the international stage, understandably. What I've read about him is like and I think that was the strategy for Labor, apparently, to have a less flashy type of leader, a contrast to the previous Labor leader, Jeremy Corbyn, who was very controversial and associated with extreme left and some anti-Semitic comments. But definitely not the charisma of a Tony Blair. Tell me more about him.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer, yes, this kind of mythology around Starmer, which is that he's dull, doesn't have the charisma of Blair, who, we can still see today does have charisma, but Sir Keir Starmer is a highly professional, highly experienced individual who has a knighthood because of his service to the legal apparatus in this country. I think in that sense he should be respected. And yes, there is a choice being made perhaps in people's minds, because of course we only see these people most of the time in the media, is that the kind of flamboyance of someone like Boris Johnson really it wrecked the Conservative Party. He was a proven liar, but nevertheless had this weird charisma, which I don't understand, but other people seem to succumb to. So, yes, Keir Starmer looks like an antidote to this kind of mendacious showmanship, but nevertheless, he is a professional, highly competent, and I think that we have reason to be optimistic about him. It's not just going to be a period of dullness. I do look forward to seeing how he deals with the, frankly, atrocious crises that are likely to engulf the new government, largely as an inheritance of their predecessors. I think he's I know people who are his constituents in London. They regard him as being admirable.
And what do you expect in terms of what's going to come out of this new majority Labor government in the months and first year to come? Again, from the outside, knowing very little, what I've read is that Keir Starmer was very successful in maybe bringing Labor closer to the center than maybe it was previously under Jeremy Corbyn. So do you expect a more centrist approach to the problems, or will there be internal strife with such a large majority? More extreme factions may influence Starmer more? How do you feel about the internal dynamics of this large majority?
Well, I think that politics is always about strife. So that's not going to disappear by going towards the centre. It's almost as if Starmer recognized that with the power of the right-wing press in the UK, the Daily Mail, the Times, and so on, that he had to drag the party, willing or unwilling, towards a centre where he could get votes. As he frequently said, he wasn't interested in a puritanical kind of politics. He wanted power. He wanted power for the Labour Party. Now, there is a kind of right-wing, there's right-wing chatter about the idea that Starmer is suddenly going to reveal himself as red in tooth and claw. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think he will have difficulties managing the different factions within the Labour Party, but he seems to be quite good at that. I think the main issues are to do with the international situation, the fact that we have bitterly wars in Ukraine and in the Middle East that are bitterly contested even in Britain. The student community has been convulsed by the situation in Gaza. I think he's going to have a lot on his hands. He's got an economy which really needs open heart surgery, and As I said earlier to you, we have our public sector, the health service, the courts, the legal system, prisons. These are all in crisis. And he will inherit those crises. So I would have thought, if you're looking at the situation from Sir Keir Starmer's point of view, that is really going to be top of the agenda. What do you do about these crises? What is Britain's role on an international stage with regard to these conflicts? The fact that we have wars going on, we have Russia and China as very problematic powers in on a global scale. All of these things are going to crash onto his desk in 10 Downing Street, and I think that's going to take up his attention before he starts worrying about factions within the Labour Party.
All right. I got to stop you there. Christopher, I apologize. Yeah, okay. I have to stop you there. I'm all out of time. This was very, very interesting. Appreciate your insights and your time this morning.
Right, okay. Well, I do wish Sir Keir Starmer well, actually.
All right.
If I can make that point at the end, yeah.
We all do.
Great to talk to you.
We all do. Thank you so much. Christopher Hale, British nonfiction writer and documentary producer who has produced documentaries for most of the major international broadcasters.